The massive alien fleet appeared without warning. Like dark shadows against the starlit void, thousands of ships drifted helplessly at the edge of the solar system. Their engines were cold, and only the faintest emergency lights flickered across their hulls. It was a regular Thursday morning at Earth's Deep Space Monitoring Station when Officer Mike Brown noticed something odd on his scanner. At first, he thought it was a glitch, a massive cluster of objects just beyond Neptune's orbit. He rubbed his tired eyes and took another sip of coffee before double-checking the readings. "Sir, you need to see this," Mike called out to his supervisor, Officer James White. "I'm picking up something big, really big." James walked over, his boots clicking against the metal floor. He leaned over Mike's shoulder, and his eyes widened. The scanner showed not just one or two, but thousands of objects, all clustered together in a formation that couldn't possibly be natural. "Run a full spectrum analysis," James ordered, reaching for the emergency phone. Within minutes, the monitoring station was buzzing with activity. Scientists and military personnel rushed to their stations, and screens lit up across the room as more sensors focused on the mysterious fleet. "Sir, we're picking up a signal," called out Lisa Green from her communication station. "It's weak, but it's definitely artificial. Running it through the decoder now." The room fell silent as the first alien transmission in human history played through the speakers. It wasn't words, at least not in any human language, but a series of rhythmic pulses that repeated over and over. Even without understanding the language, everyone in the room could recognize it for what it was: a distress signal. The next few hours were chaos. The president was awakened in the middle of the night, military forces worldwide went on high alert, and astronomers around the globe turned their telescopes toward the mysterious visitors. As clearer images came in, the true scale of the situation became apparent. The alien fleet was massive. Over 5,000 ships of various sizes. Some were as large as small cities, while others were no bigger than Earth's own space shuttles. But they all shared one thing in common. They were completely powerless, drifting in space like bottles in an ocean. "Look at these readings," said Dr. Robert Wilson, the station's chief scientist, pointing at his screen. "Their power cores are completely dead. Whatever technology they use, it's failed catastrophically. They're running on emergency power, and even that's failing." The images showed more detail now. Through powerful telescopes, they could see that these weren't warships. They were civilian vessels, transport ships, medical ships, and what appeared to be enormous habitation vessels. This wasn't an invasion force. It was a refugee fleet. "How many?" asked James, dreading the answer. Based on the size and number of ships, Dr. Wilson calculated quickly, "We're looking at somewhere between 10 to 15 million beings." The implications hit everyone like a physical force. 10 to 15 million lives hanging in the balance, depending on humanity's next decision. They had no idea who these aliens were, where they came from, or why they were fleeing. But one thing was clear: without help, they would die. James looked around the room at his fellow humans, seeing the same thoughts reflected in their eyes. Throughout history, sailors had lived by one unshakable rule: you never ignore a distress signal. Now, humanity faced its first test as a spacefaring civilization. Would they extend that same ancient law to the stars? The emergency phone rang again. This time, it was a direct call from the United Nations Security Council. James picked up the phone, his hand steady, despite the weight of the moment. "This is Officer James White, Deep Space Monitoring Station." The voice on the other end was clear and determined. "Officer White, you are hereby authorized to initiate first contact procedures. The International Space Rescue Force is being mobilized. Humanity is about to make history." As James put down the phone, he looked through the station's large observation window at the stars above. Somewhere out there, millions of beings were waiting in the dark, hoping someone would answer their call for help, and humanity had just decided to answer. The greatest rescue mission in human history was about to begin. The United Nations emergency session was unlike anything in human history. Representatives from every nation sat in tense silence as they watched the holographic display of the alien fleet. Captain Tom Miller of the International Space Rescue Force stood at the podium, his voice steady as he addressed the assembly. "Ladies and gentlemen, we're facing an unprecedented situation," he said, pointing to the detailed scans. "These ships contain millions of beings who will die without our help. Their life support systems are failing. We have maybe 2 weeks before the situation becomes critical." The Chinese representative stood up first. "How do we know this isn't a trick? They could be hiding weapons. This could be an invasion strategy." Tom clicked to the next image. "Our deep scans show no signs of weapons. These are civilian ships, cultural archives, medical facilities, and family units. They're running on emergency power, and even that's failing. They're completely vulnerable." The room erupted in debate. Some nations wanted to send help immediately, while others urged caution. The Russian representative demanded military escorts for any rescue mission. The Indian delegation worried about the strain on Earth's resources. In the back of the room, Dr. Anna Reed, Earth's leading expert on theoretical propulsion, studied the technical data from the alien ships. Her eyes widened as she realized what she was seeing. "Captain Miller," she called out, her voice cutting through the argument. "These ships, their technology is incredible. Look at their drive systems. They're using quantum manipulation on a scale we've only dreamed of. This isn't just a rescue mission. It's a chance to advance human technology by centuries." The mood in the room shifted. The prospect of gaining advanced technology changed the equation. Even the most hesitant nations began to see the potential benefits. But it was the Japanese representative who asked the question everyone was thinking. "How can we even help them? Their technology is far beyond ours." Tom Miller smiled for the first time. "That's where you're wrong, sir. Sometimes the simplest solutions are the best. We may not understand their quantum drives, but we know how to generate power. We have nuclear reactors, solar arrays, and fusion technology. We can adapt these to their ships." He pulled up another display, showing Earth's available rescue resources. The International Space Rescue Force has 50 heavy-lift vessels ready to launch. The Space Mining Corporation has another 30 ships that can be retrofitted for rescue operations. With international cooperation, we could have 100 ships ready within a week. The British representative leaned forward. "And what happens after we rescue them? Where will they go?" "Mars," Tom said simply. "We have those new dome cities we've been building for colonization. They're empty now, but they could house at least 1 million refugees. The rest can stay on their ships once we get them powered up. But first, we have to save them." The UN Secretary General called for a vote. The tension in the room was thick as nations made their choices. One by one, the votes came in. In the end, it wasn't even close. By an overwhelming majority, humanity chose to help. Tom left the UN building and walked to the nearby park. He looked up at the evening sky, knowing that somewhere up there, millions of beings were waiting, hoping for salvation. His phone buzzed. The rescue fleet was already being assembled. Dr. Reed joined him in the park. "You know," she said, "this could go wrong in 100 different ways. We're risking everything on beings we've never met." Tom nodded. "True. But think about it. Every great civilization in human history was built on helping others. The Phoenicians, the Greeks, the British, they all became great because they mastered helping ships in distress. Now we have a chance to do the same thing, just on a bigger scale." His phone buzzed again. The first rescue ships were ready for launch. "Well," he said, standing up straight, "history's waiting. Let's go save some aliens." As they walked toward the spaceport, news screens worldwide showed the same message. Operation HFY Humanity's greatest rescue mission begins. The decision was made. Now came the hard part, turning humanity's good intentions into reality. The human rescue fleet approached the alien ships carefully. 100 Earth vessels, their hulls gleaming in the distant sunlight, moved in perfect formation. From the command deck of the lead ship Hope, Captain Tom Miller watched the alien fleet grow larger in his view screen. "All ships, maintain formation," he ordered through the fleet-wide channel. "Remember your training. We're making history today." The alien ships were enormous. The closest one was easily 10 times the size of Earth's largest vessel. Its dark hull was covered in strange markings that seemed to shift color when viewed from different angles. Emergency lights pulsed weakly across its surface, like a fading heartbeat. "Life signs confirmed," reported Officer Jane Park from her sensor station. "Multiple species detected. Their life support is at 23% and falling." Tom took a deep breath. This was the moment of truth. Begin broadcast of the first contact message. Earth's scientists had prepared a simple message using mathematical sequences and basic visual symbols. They transmitted it on all frequencies, hoping the aliens would understand their peaceful intentions. For 5 long minutes, there was no response. Then suddenly, a section of the massive alien ship began to glow. A door was opening. "All crews, stand by," Tom ordered. "First contact team, prepare for boarding." The first contact team consisted of scientists, engineers, and linguists, all trained for this historic moment. They wore special suits designed to protect against unknown environments, while appearing as non-threatening as possible. As their shuttle approached the alien airlock, everyone held their breath. The docking procedure was tense. Human technology trying to connect with alien systems that were never designed to be compatible. With a soft thud, they made contact. The airlock cycled, and the first humans stepped onto an alien ship. Dr. Mary Wilson, the team's lead xenobiologist, was first through the door. Her helmet cameras transmitted everything back to the waiting fleet. The alien corridor was huge, with sweeping curves and walls that seemed to be alive with shifting patterns. And then they saw them. The aliens were tall, nearly 8 feet in height. Their bodies seemed to be made of crystalline structures that caught and reflected light in beautiful patterns. They moved with a grace that seemed impossible for their size. One of them stepped forward. Its crystal body pulsed with soft colors as it raised what appeared to be a hand in greeting. Dr. Wilson activated her universal translator, which had been programmed with basic mathematical and symbolic language. "We come in peace," she transmitted through symbols and light patterns. "We are here to help." The alien's body flashed with bright colors. The translator worked to decode the response. "Welcome, Earth beings. We are the Lightborn. You answer our call when all others turned away." Over the next few hours, the human team learned the Lightborn story. They were peaceful explorers who had fled their home system when a devastating war broke out. Their quantum drive technology, while advanced, had been pushed beyond its limits during their escape. The entire fleet had dropped out of quantum space near Earth, their power cores completely drained. The human engineers were fascinated by the alien technology, but also shocked by its current state. Without power, the quantum cores were useless. Millions of lives depended on finding a solution fast. Back on the Hope, Tom received the first detailed reports. The situation was worse than they'd thought. The alien fleet had been running on emergency power for weeks. Some ships had already lost life support in several sections. "Begin emergency evacuations of the critical sections," he ordered. "All ships prepare to receive refugees. Priority to children and medical cases." As he watched, human shuttles began flying between the ships, carrying the first alien refugees to safety. It was a sight he never thought he'd see. Humans and aliens working together, helping each other. One of the Lightborn leaders, their body glowing with deep blue gratitude, sent a message to all human ships. "In our darkest hour, you came. We will remember this always. The children of Earth have proven themselves to be true children of the stars." The rescue had begun, but this was just the beginning. The real challenges still lay ahead, as 2 civilizations began learning to work together for survival. And somewhere in the vast darkness of space, other eyes were watching this historic meeting with great interest. Inside the massive engine room of the alien flagship, human and light-born engineers worked side by side. The quantum core towered above them, a masterpiece of technology that now sat cold and lifeless. Chief Engineer Amy Ross stared at her tablet, frowning at the readings. "It's like trying to jumpstart a quantum computer with a car battery," she muttered. 3 days of non-stop work had yielded little progress. The human power systems were simply too primitive to interface with the alien technology. The light-born engineer beside her, who had taken the name Blue for easier communication, pulsed with frustrated colors. "Our systems require quantum-level power manipulation. Your fusion reactors produce raw energy, but without proper containment, it's useless." Amy walked around the core again, her mind racing. She'd always solved problems by looking at them differently. Right now, they were trying to make human technology work with alien systems, but maybe that was the wrong approach. "What if we're thinking about this backwards?" she said suddenly. "Instead of trying to power your systems with our technology, what if we built something new? Something that combines both our sciences?" Blue's crystal body flickered with interest. "Explain." Amy pulled up the schematics of both power systems on her tablet. "Look here. Your quantum cores use crystalline matrices to manipulate energy at the subatomic level. Our fusion reactors generate massive amounts of raw power. What if we used your crystals to channel our fusion power?" The idea spread through the engineering teams like wildfire. Human and light-born scientists gathered around tables, drawing up plans and running simulations. It was a crazy idea, combining two completely different technologies that were never meant to work together. But they had no choice. The latest reports showed that more ships were losing power every hour. Already, 20,000 Lightborn had been evacuated to human ships and the Mars colonies, but there were millions more still at risk. In the center of the engine room, engineers began building a prototype. They took a small fusion reactor and surrounded it with salvaged crystals from damaged Lightborn systems. The crystals were arranged in patterns that mimicked the quantum core's original design. "Power readings are stable," called out Tech Officer Bill Smith from his monitoring station. "Crystal Matrix is accepting the energy flow." Amy held her breath as they increased power. The crystals began to glow, their light pulsing in complex patterns. Blue moved closer, their body resonating with the energy field. "It's working," Blue announced, their colors bright with excitement. "The crystals are converting your fusion power into quantum-compatible energy." A cheer went up from the human engineers, but Amy wasn't celebrating yet. "This is just a small-scale test. We need to make it work for an entire ship." They spent the next 12 hours scaling up the design. Every available engineer in the fleet was called in to help. The Lightborn shared their knowledge of crystal technology, while humans contributed their expertise in fusion power. Finally, they were ready to test it on a full-scale ship. They chose a smaller vessel first, one that had already been evacuated. If something went wrong, no lives would be at risk. The combined human-alien engineering team watched from a safe distance as the new power core came online. The ship's hull began to glow as power flowed through its systems for the first time in weeks. "All systems responding," called out Bill. "Power levels are stable and rising. Life support is coming back online." Blue's entire body was glowing with joy. "You did it. A completely new form of power generation, born from the combination of our technologies." Amy smiled, but she was already thinking ahead. "We'll need to build hundreds more of these cores, and we'll have to train teams to maintain them." "We'll help," Blue said. "This is more than just a rescue now. This is the beginning of true cooperation between our peoples." The news spread quickly through both fleets. The humans had found a way to save the Lightborn ships. More importantly, they had proven that the two civilizations could work together, creating something greater than either could achieve alone. But in a moment of triumph, none of them noticed the small dark probe watching from the edge of the solar system, recording everything and preparing to send its report to distant masters. The warning alarms blared across multiple ships simultaneously. In the command center of the Hope, Captain Tom Miller watched in horror as red warning lights flashed across the fleet status display. "Report," he barked, leaning forward in his chair. Officer Jane Park's fingers flew across her console. "Sir, we have critical failures in 37 Lightborne ships. Their emergency power systems are completely failing. Life support is dropping rapidly." The situation they had feared most was happening. Despite working around the clock to install the new hybrid power cores, they hadn't been fast enough. Some of the alien ships were dying. "How many people on those ships?" Tom demanded. "Nearly 2 million, Jane replied, her voice tight with tension. "Sir, they have less than 3 hours of breathable atmosphere left." Tom hit the fleet-wide communication button. "All rescue ships, this is Captain Miller. Execute Emergency Protocol Delta. I repeat, Emergency Protocol Delta. This is not a drill." Across the fleet, human ships sprang into action. They had drilled for this scenario, but doing it for real was different. Every available shuttle and transport ship launched, racing toward the failing alien vessels. Inside one of the largest failing ships, chaos erupted. The Lightborne's crystalline bodies flickered with panic as sections of their ship went dark. Children's quarters were evacuated first, their small forms glowing with fear as human rescue teams guided them to safety. "We need more ships," called Amy Ross through the command channel. She was aboard one of the failing vessels, helping coordinate the evacuation. "We've got entire families trapped in the lower sections." Tom looked at his resources. They were already pushing every ship to its limit. Then he made a decision that would change everything. "This is Captain Miller to all civilian vessels in the solar system." He broadcast on an open channel. "We need your help. Any ship with life support and space for passengers, please respond." The response was immediate. Mining ships, cargo vessels, private yachts, every human ship within range changed course to help. It wasn't just the space forces anymore. All of humanity was joining the rescue. But time was running out. The atmosphere in the failing ships was getting thin. Some sections were already uninhabitable. "Captain," Jane called out suddenly, "I'm detecting massive power fluctuations in the largest failing ship. It's going critical." Tom watched in horror as the massive ship systems began to cascade toward failure. There were still thousands of Lightborne aboard. "Get everyone out now," he ordered. "All ships, clear the area." But Amy's voice came back over the comm. "We're not leaving. There are children still trapped in here. Give us more time." The ship's hull began to crack, energy discharges dancing across its surface. The human rescue teams worked frantically, leading groups of Lightborne to safety even as the ship died around them. 30 seconds to critical failure, Jane announced. Just then, a massive mining ship appeared, piloted by a veteran spacer named Old Jack. Without hesitation, he crashed his ship right into the hull breach, using his vessel as a bridge. "Get those folks across," his gruff voice called over the comm. "This old girl can hold for a few more minutes." Through the makeshift bridge formed by the mining ship, the last refugees escaped. Amy and her team were the last ones out, helping a group of injured Lightborne to safety. They barely made it. The dying ship finally broke apart, its pieces drifting into space. But thanks to the combined efforts of military and civilian ships, not a single life was lost. In the aftermath, human ships of all sizes carried their crystal passengers to safety. The sight of Earth vessels packed with glowing Lightborne refugees became a powerful symbol of humanity's commitment to helping their new allies. Tom stood at his viewing window, watching the rescue operations continue across the fleet. They had survived this crisis, but barely. They needed to work faster to save the remaining ships. But something else bothered him. The system failures had happened too suddenly, too simultaneously. As he studied the damage reports, a disturbing thought formed in his mind. This hadn't been an accident. Someone, or something, had helped these ships fail. And as if to confirm his fears, the long-range sensors began picking up new signals from the edge of the solar system. They were no longer alone. The enemy fleet appeared like dark shadows against the stars. 50 warships, their hulls covered in blood-red markings, dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the solar system. They were the hunters, the ones the Lightborn had fled from. In the Hope's command center, Captain Tom Miller studied the tactical display with grim determination. Besides him stood Blue, the Lightborn's chief representative, their crystalline form pulsing with worried colors. "They've found us," Blue said softly. The hunters never stopped pursuing their prey. The enemy commander's transmission came through on all channels. Their holographic image showed a being covered in dark armor, their voice cold and mechanical. "Primitive Earth beings," the hunter commander spoke. "You harbor our enemies. Give us the Lightborn, and we will spare your world. Refuse, and face extinction." Tom looked around his command center. Every human officer stood tall, their faces showing no fear. Humanity had made its choice when they first answered the distress call. They weren't about to back down now. "This is Captain Tom Miller of Earth's Combined Fleet," he responded. "The Lightborn are under our protection. They came to us for help, and we gave our word. We suggest you leave our solar system immediately." The hunter commander laughed, a harsh, metallic sound. "You don't understand what you're dealing with, Earth creature. Our weapons are centuries beyond yours." "Maybe," Tom replied, "but you might want to count the ships facing you." During the rescue operations, Earth had quietly assembled its defenses. Now, from behind Mars and the asteroid belt, hundreds of ships appeared. Mining vessels equipped with powerful cutting lasers, cargo ships carrying makeshift weapons, and most importantly, every military vessel humanity could muster. Nearly 500 ships formed a defensive line between the hunters and the refugee fleet. It wasn't just the Space Force anymore. Every human who could fly a ship had volunteered to fight. The hunter commander's image flickered with surprise. They hadn't expected this level of resistance from a primitive species. "This is your final warning," the hunter growled. "Stand aside or be destroyed." Tom's response was simple. "No." The first hunter ships moved forward, charging their weapons. But before they could fire, something unexpected happened. The Lightborn ships that had been repaired with the new hybrid power cores began to glow. Their quantum technology, powered by human fusion cores, created a massive energy shield. "We stand with Earth," Blue announced on an open channel. "Together, we are stronger than you." The hunters launched their first attack, energy weapons flaring across space, but the combined human Lightborn defense held. Earth ships darted between the larger alien vessels, their primitive weapons proving surprisingly effective against the hunters' advanced shields. Old Jack's mining ship led a group of industrial vessels, their mining lasers cutting through hunter ship armor like paper. No one had ever thought to use mining tools as weapons before. The hunter commander raged on the command channel. "You dared to fight us with mining tools and cargo ships. We are the supreme power in this sector." "No," Tom replied calmly. "You're just bullies who didn't expect your victims to find friends. Humanity has a long history of standing up to bullies." The battle raged for hours. The hunters had superior technology, but they'd never faced an enemy that combined two different civilizations' technologies in new ways. They'd never fought humans before, who used simple tools in unexpected ways. Finally, after losing a third of their fleet to the combined human Lightborn forces, the hunter commander made one last transmission. "This isn't over," they threatened. "We will return with a larger fleet." Tom looked at the tired but proud faces around him, human and Lightborn together. "And we'll be ready. Earth protects its friends." The hunter fleet retreated, disappearing back into faster-than-light travel. In the command center, humans and Lightborn celebrated together. They had faced humanity's first interstellar battle and emerged victorious. But Tom and Blue knew the hunter commander's threat wasn't empty. They would return. Earth would need to prepare. But now they wouldn't face the threat alone. Two civilizations, working together, would be ready. The war wasn't over, but today, humanity had shown the galaxy what it meant to stand together. 3 months after the battle with the hunters, Earth had changed. The sight of crystalline lightborn walking among humans had become common in cities worldwide. The Mars colonies were thriving, with human and alien scientists working side by side to expand the habitats. At the newly established Earth Lightborn Command Center, Captain Tom Miller stood before a holographic display showing the combined fleet. The remaining refugee ships had all been retrofitted with the hybrid power cores, their systems now stronger than ever. "The defense network is almost complete," reported Officer Jane Park, pointing to the stations being built throughout the solar system. "We're using Lightborn quantum technology combined with human weapons systems. If the hunters return, they'll face something they've never seen before." Amy Ross entered the command center, followed by Blue. Both of them had been working nonstop to improve the hybrid technology they'd created during the crisis. "We've made a breakthrough," Amy announced, her eyes bright with excitement. "Show them, Blue." The Lightborn engineer's crystal form pulsed with pride as they activated the small device. A sphere of energy formed above it, swirling with both quantum patterns and fusion power. "This is just the beginning," Blue explained. "By combining our technologies, we've created something entirely new. Clean power that could end energy shortages across both our civilizations." Tom smiled. What had started as a rescue mission had turned into something much more important: the first true partnership between two spacefaring races. The main screen lit up with a transmission from the United Nations. The Secretary General appeared, standing beside the newly appointed Lightborn ambassador. "Today marks a historic moment," the Secretary General announced. "The Earth Lightborn Alliance Treaty has been ratified by all nations. We are officially allies, bound together in peace and mutual defense." Cheers erupted across the command center. But there was more news to come. "Our deep space sensors have detected other civilizations fleeing from hunter expansion," the Lightborn ambassador added, their crystal form glowing with determination. "Together, we can offer them sanctuary, just as Earth did for us." Tom looked at the faces around him, human and Lightborn working together as if they'd been allies for centuries instead of months. They had created something unique in the galaxy, a civilization that combined the best of both worlds. "We've received transmissions from other races," Jane reported. "They've heard about what happened here, about how a primitive world stood up to the hunters. They want to know more about Earth." Old Jack, who had become something of a legend after his mining ship maneuver, laughed from his new position as training coordinator. "Well, let's show them what happens when you mix human ingenuity with alien wisdom." The command center's main screen showed their new reality: Earth ships and Lightborn vessels patrolling together. Construction crews building advanced shipyards in orbit. The first joint academy where both species learned from each other. "The hunters thought they would destroy us," Blue said softly. "Instead, they made us stronger by bringing us together." Tom looked out the window at Earth below. The planet seemed different now, no longer just humanity's home, but a beacon of hope for other species in the galaxy. "Send a message to all ships," he ordered. "The Earth Lightborn Alliance is now accepting applications for joint crews. It's time to show the galaxy what we can do together." As the sun set over Earth, lights began to shine in the new quantum-powered cities. In orbit, ships of both civilizations moved in harmony, their crews no longer separated by their differences, but united in their shared future. The rescue mission that started it all had ended, but something greater had begun, a partnership that would change the course of two civilizations and perhaps the entire galaxy. And somewhere in the vast darkness of space, other races saw hope in this union of crystals and steel, of quantum science and human determination. Earth was no longer alone in the universe. They had found not just allies, but friends among the stars. The end.